My name is Marcus Riley, and I guard demons for the Catholic Church. Not from demons, for them. People think the Vatican keeps holy relics in their basement. Gold chalices, pieces of the cross, maybe some old bones from saints. They're not wrong, but they're not seeing the whole picture. 3 levels down from the gift shop, past the archives that tourists never see, there are holding cells, 26 of them. Each one built to contain something that shouldn't exist. I've been doing this job for 8 years. Before that, I was a corrections officer at San Quentin. Thought I'd seen everything. Murderers, rapists, gang leaders who'd gut you for looking at them sideways. Then Father Castellano recruited me. Said they needed someone who understood that evil comes in different shapes, but the job stays the same. Keep the bad things locked up. Keep the good people safe. He was right about the first part, wrong about the second. The pay is good, better than good. I make more than most doctors, and I don't need to save lives, just prevent certain deaths. The Vatican calls me a special containment specialist. The other guards call me the demon wrangler. I call myself practical. There are 5 rules for this job. Break them and you die. Follow them and you might live long enough to retire. Maybe. Rule 1. Never look them in the eyes for more than 3 seconds. I learned this one the hard way during my first week. The thing in cell 7 was a possessed Franciscan monk from the 14th century. Father Miguel. He'd been down there for 200 years, waiting for an exorcism that would never come. Some demons dig in too deep to remove. You just build a box around them and hope it holds. I was checking his food slot when our eyes met. Just for a moment. 4 seconds, maybe 5. Long enough for him to get inside my head. I heard my ex-wife's voice calling my name from the corridor behind me. Sarah had been dead for 3 years. Car accident. I knew it wasn't her, but I turned around anyway. The hallway was empty. When I looked back, Father Miguel was smiling. His teeth were gray. She says, "Hello, Marcus." She says she forgives you for the affair. I slammed the food slot shut and walked away. My hands were shaking. Sarah never knew about the affair. Nobody knew except me and Jenny from the diner on Route 9. Miguel shouldn't have known either, but 3 seconds was all he needed to dig through my memories like old mail. Rule 2. Never enter a cell alone. This one seems obvious until you're standing in front of cell 12 at 3 in the morning, listening to a 12-year-old girl crying for her mother. The thing in there used to be Anna Marchetti, Italian tourist who got possessed during a visit to the Sistine Chapel. She'd been 8 when it happened. Now she was 12, but she'd been 12 for 40 years. The possession stops aging. Bodies get stuck at the moment of invasion. Anna would be 12 forever, and she'd cry for her mother every night at 3 a.m. Sometimes I'd stand outside her cell and listen. The crying sounded real, human. It was easy to forget that Anna Marchetti died decades ago. What was left was something else wearing her face. Father Castellano told me the story during my 2nd week. Anna's parents had brought her to Rome for her 8th birthday. Big Catholic family from Naples. During the tour, Anna wandered away from the group. They found her 20 minutes later, standing in front of Michelangelo's Pieta, speaking Latin. 8-year-old Italian girls don't usually speak dead languages, especially not fluently. The exorcism took 3 days. Anna's body survived. Anna didn't. I never went into cell 12 alone, but sometimes the crying would stop when I passed by. Like it knew I was there. Like it was waiting for me to make a mistake. Rule 3. Never touch them, even through the bars. This one cost us a guard named Peterson. Nice guy. Former Marine. 2 tours in Afghanistan. He thought he could handle anything. Most of the cells have feeding slots built into the doors. Slide the tray in, slide it back out. Simple. But cell 18 had a different setup. The bars were spaced wider, and the thing inside had human hands. It was a banker from Switzerland who'd been possessed during a business trip to Lourdes. Ironic, really. Goes to a holy site, comes back with a passenger. The demon had been in him for 6 months before the church tracked him down. Long enough to make some changes. The banker looked normal enough. Middle-aged, thinning hair, expensive suit that somehow stayed clean despite 40 years in a cell. But his fingernails had grown into claws, and his skin had a grayish tint like old meat. Peterson was sliding the dinner tray through the slot when the banker grabbed his wrist, just wrapped those clawed fingers around Peterson's arm and held on. Peterson tried to pull away, but the grip was too strong. The banker started whispering in a language I didn't recognize, not Latin, something older. Within 30 seconds, Peterson's skin began to change. Same gray tint, same texture. The color spread up his arm like ink in water. I hit the emergency button and grabbed the cattle prod from the wall mount, hit the banker with 50,000 volts until he let go. Peterson's arm never changed back. We had to amputate at the shoulder. He took early retirement and moved to Florida. Last I heard, he was running a bait shop in Key West. Never complained about the arm, said it was better than working for the church. Rule 4. Feed them exactly what's on the list. Nothing more, nothing less. Each demon has specific dietary requirements. Most of them can't eat regular food anymore. The possession changes their digestive systems. Cell 3 gets raw liver twice a day. Cell 9 gets communion wafers soaked in holy water. Cell 15 gets nothing but black coffee and cigarettes. The thing in Cell 15 used to be a priest named Father Davies. Welsh guy, worked in Cardiff for 30 years before the possession. Now he chain smokes Marlboro Reds and drinks coffee like it's keeping him alive. Maybe it is. I've never asked. The coffee has to be exactly right. 2 sugars, no cream, hot enough to burn. The cigarettes have to be unfiltered. I bring him a fresh pack every 3 days. He never says thank you, just nods and goes back to staring at the wall. Once, a new guard named Rodriguez decided to be nice. Brought Father Davies a donut with his coffee. Chocolate glazed. Rodriguez thought he was being human. The priest took one bite and started convulsing. Blood came out of his nose. His skin turned white, then blue, then black. We called the medical team, but they couldn't do anything. Father Davies died for 4 minutes before coming back. When he woke up, he looked at Rodriguez and said, "Next time, follow the list." Rodriguez quit the next day. Rule 5. If they escape, don't try to stop them. Run. This is the hardest rule to follow because it goes against every instinct you have as a guard. Your job is to contain, to stop escapes. But these aren't regular prisoners. If one of them gets out, it means the containment protocols have failed. It means something very, very bad is about to happen. I've seen an escape once, just once. It was cell 22. A Romanian businessman named Popescu, who'd been possessed during a ski trip to Transylvania. Cliché, I know, but demons don't care about geography jokes. This one was different from the others. Stronger, more patient. Popescu had been in the cell for 15 years, never causing trouble. Model prisoner. Then one Tuesday morning, I came in for the day shift and his cell was empty. The door was still locked. The bars were intact. No sign of damage or violence. He was just gone. I followed protocol and hit the alarm. Within minutes, the entire underground level was locked down. Armed response teams, priests with crosses and holy water, the works. But Popescu wasn't on our level anymore. We found him in the papal apartments. 6 floors up, past multiple security checkpoints and locked doors. He was sitting in the Pope's private study, reading a book. Just sitting there like he belonged. The Swiss guards surrounded him, but Popescu didn't seem concerned. He looked up from his book and smiled. His teeth were normal. Human. That was somehow worse than fangs. "I wanted to return this," he said, holding up the book. It was a first edition copy of the Divine Comedy, Dante's original Italian text, worth more than my annual salary. I borrowed it 15 years ago. Never got a chance to finish it. The head of security asked how he'd gotten out, how he'd bypassed the locks, the alarms, the guards. Popescu just shrugged. I asked nicely. That was it. No elaborate escape plan, no supernatural powers. He'd asked the door to open, and it had. Asked the alarms to stay quiet, and they had. Asked the guards to look the other way, and they did. We escorted him back to his cell. He went willingly, even said thank you. The lock clicked shut behind him like nothing had happened. But something had changed. The other prisoners were quieter after that, more watchful. Like they'd learned something from Popescu's field trip. I've been thinking about quitting lately. 8 years is a long time to spend underground with things that shouldn't exist. Long time to follow rules that don't make sense until you break them. But the money is good, and I'm not qualified for much else. Security work is security work, even when you're securing the impossible. Besides, someone has to do it. Someone has to stand guard while the church pretends these things don't exist. Someone has to make sure the doors stay locked and the rules get followed. Might as well be me. The worst part isn't the demons themselves. It's the waiting. Knowing that eventually something will go wrong. A lock will fail. A guard will make a mistake. A rule will get broken one too many times. And when that happens, what we've been keeping locked up down here will find its way upstairs. When that day comes, the world is going to learn that monsters are real. That they've been real all along, living 3 floors below the holiest place on earth. Living in cells with numbers instead of names. Living on borrowed time and controlled diets in the hope that their guards remember the rules. I check my watch. Almost time for the evening rounds. Cell 3 needs liver. Cell 9 needs wafers. Cell 15 needs coffee and cigarettes. Same as yesterday. Same as tomorrow. The rules keep us all alive. Even them. Especially them. The worst night of my career started with a phone call at 2:17 a.m. I was at home, 3 miles from Vatican City, trying to sleep off a double shift. My apartment is small and sparse. Bed, kitchen table, TV that gets fuzzy reception. Most of my paycheck goes into a savings account I never touch. Money for a life I'm not living yet. The phone rang 4 times before I answered. Riley. My voice sounded like gravel. We need you here. Now. Father Castellano's voice was tight, controlled. In 8 years, I'd never heard him sound worried. What's the situation? New arrival? Something different? I was already reaching for my pants. How different? Just get here. The line went dead. I drove through empty Rome streets, past fountains and monuments that looked like ghost sculptures in the streetlight. The city sleeps differently than other places. Heavier. Like the weight of all that history presses down on everything. The Vatican never sleeps, though. There's always someone praying, someone guarding, someone watching. The night shift runs on coffee and duty, and the knowledge that darkness brings out the worst in everything. I badged in through the main security entrance and took the elevator down. 3 levels, past the archives, past the storage rooms full of artifacts that tourists would kill to see, down to the place where we keep the living artifacts, the things too dangerous for museums. Father Castellano was waiting for me in the central corridor. He's a small man, maybe 5'6", with gray hair and wire-rimmed glasses. Looks like somebody's grandfather. But he's been running this operation for 20 years, and he knows things about evil that most people can't imagine. Talk to me, I said. American tourist, 26 years old. Name's Jennifer Hayes from Portland, Oregon. She was visiting St. Peter's Basilica yesterday afternoon when it happened. When what happened? She started speaking Aramaic. Fluent Aramaic. Ancient dialect that died out 1,500 years ago. We walked toward the new holding area. Maximum security. Reinforced steel. Holy water channels built into the walls. Enough protective symbols to stop a small army of demons. Could be possession, I said. Happens to tourists sometimes. Too much holy ground. Not enough spiritual protection. Father Castellano shook his head. I thought so too. We ran the standard tests, showed her crosses, sprinkled holy water, recited exorcism prayers. Nothing. She just kept talking in Aramaic. What's she saying? That's the problem. We had Professor Benedetti translate some of it. Benedetti was the Vatican's expert on dead languages, old Jesuit priest who spoke 12 languages and could read hieroglyphics like a newspaper. And? She's not possessed, Marcus. She's channeling someone who was there when Christ died. I stopped walking. That's impossible. Is it? We have demons down here that are thousands of years old. We have a Byzantine emperor who's been possessed since 1453. Why couldn't we have someone from the 1st century? We reached cell 27. Brand new. Built specifically for this case. The cell was larger than the others, with observation windows on 3 sides and monitoring equipment I didn't recognize. Who's she channeling? We think it's one of the thieves, the ones crucified next to Christ. Professor Benedetti says she's describing the crucifixion from the perspective of someone who was there. Details that aren't in any historical record. I looked through the observation window. Jennifer Hayes was sitting on the narrow bed, rocking back and forth. She was young, blonde, wearing a University of Oregon sweatshirt and jeans. Looked like any college kid on vacation, except for her eyes. Her eyes were older than the building we were standing in. She was talking quietly to herself in a language that sounded like music played backwards. Ancient words in a modern mouth. The recording equipment picked up every syllable. Has she said anything in English? Once, when we first brought her in, she looked right at me and said, "The wood still smells like blood." Father Castellano handed me a file folder. Jennifer's background, honor student at University of Oregon. Psychology major. No history of mental illness, drug use, or religious extremism. Just a normal girl who'd saved up money for a trip to Italy. What triggered it? She was looking at Michelangelo's Pieta, same spot where Anna Marchetti got possessed 40 years ago. But this is different. Possessions are invasions. This is more like a phone call from the past. I watched Jennifer through the glass. She'd stopped rocking and was staring directly at the observation window. At me. Her mouth was moving, but no sound came out. She can see us? The glass is one way. Then how does she know we're here? Father Castellano didn't answer. Jennifer stood up from the bed and walked to the window. She pressed her palm against the glass and spoke one word in clear English. Marcus. I stepped back from the window. My name isn't on my uniform. It's not on any plaques or name tags in this facility. There's no way she could know it. How long has she been doing that? Since you walked in. Jennifer smiled and pressed her other hand against the glass. Her palms left marks on the surface. Not sweat marks. Burn marks. The glass was hot enough to leave handprints. We need to follow protocol, I said. Full containment. No direct contact until we understand what we're dealing with. Agreed. But there's something else. Father Castellano looked uncomfortable. She's been asking for you. What do you mean? She knows your name. She knows about your ex-wife. She knows about the thing that happened with Peterson and the banker in cell 18. She knows things she shouldn't know. Jennifer was still smiling at me through the glass. Her teeth were normal, human. Somehow that made it worse. What does she want? To talk, just talk. I thought about Rule 2, never enter a cell alone. But Jennifer wasn't asking me to come in. She just wanted to talk. Set up a communication system, intercom. I'll talk to her from out here. It took 20 minutes to wire the system. Jennifer waited patiently, never moving from the window, never taking her eyes off me. When the speaker crackled to life, she tilted her head like a curious bird. "Hello, Marcus." Her voice was different over the intercom. Layered. Like two people talking at the same time. Jennifer's young American accent underneath something older, much older. What's your name? I have had many names. In life, I was called Dismas. In death, I am called the penitent thief. Dismas, the good thief, the one who defended Christ on the cross and was promised paradise. Every Catholic kid learns the story in Sunday school. You're not Dismas. Dismas died 2,000 years ago. Death is not the end, Marcus. It is merely a change of address. Jennifer's hand was still pressed against the glass. The burn marks were getting darker. What do you want? To warn you. Something is coming. Something that has been asleep for a very long time. What kind of something? The first demon. The one who spoke to Eve in the garden. The one who convinced Judas to betray his master. It has been sleeping beneath Jerusalem for 2,000 years, but now it stirs. This was above my pay grade. Way above. I looked at Father Castellano, who was recording everything. Why are you telling me this? Because when it wakes up, it will come here first, to the Vatican, to claim what it believes is rightfully its. Which is what? The church. All of it. Every soul, every prayer, every act of faith. It was there at the beginning, Marcus. It knows the true history, the parts that were never written down. Jennifer's other hand joined the first against the glass. The burn marks were spreading like cracks in ice. And you want to stop it? I want to give you a choice. When it comes, you can run or you can fight. But you cannot do both. What about the rules? What about containment protocols? Jennifer laughed. It was a sound like wind through old bones. Your rules were written by men who never saw what I have seen. Men who built walls around shadows and called themselves safe. When the first demon comes, your walls will crumble like sand. The glass was getting hot. I could feel the heat from 3 feet away. How do we stop it? You don't. You survive it. Some of you. The intercom speakers started smoking. The wiring couldn't handle whatever was coming through Jennifer's voice. Marcus, she said, and now it was just her voice. Young. Scared. American. I can feel him slipping away. Dismas. He's going back to wherever he came from. Jennifer? Is that you? I think so. Where am I? This isn't St. Peter's. The burn marks on the glass were fading. Jennifer's hands left the window and she stepped back, confused. You're safe, I said. You're in a medical facility. You had an episode. I remember being in the basilica. I was looking at the Pieta. It was so beautiful. And then, she paused. There was an old man. He was in pain, so much pain, and he wanted to tell someone about it. Do you remember what he said? Some of it. Something about a sleeping demon, about Jerusalem. She looked around the cell, finally realizing where she was. Am I in prison? You're in protective custody. You had a kind of seizure, started speaking in languages you don't know. I don't speak any other languages, just English and a little Spanish from high school. The monitoring equipment showed normal vital signs, human brain patterns, no trace of possession or supernatural influence. Jennifer Hayes was back to being Jennifer Hayes, but the burn marks on the glass were still there. We need to keep you here for observation, Father Castellano said through the intercom, just until we're sure you're okay. How long? A few days, maybe a week. I'm supposed to fly home tomorrow. My parents are expecting me. We'll contact them. Explain that you're receiving medical care. Jennifer sat down on the bed. She looked tired. Normal tired, not supernaturally tired. Can I ask you something? She said to me. Sure. The old man, Dismas, he showed me things. Terrible things that are coming. But he also showed me something else. What? You. He said you're going to have to make a choice, and whatever you choose, people are going to die. The room got very quiet. Even the monitoring equipment seemed to stop humming. What kind of choice? Between the rules and doing what's right. He said the two things aren't always the same. I thought about Peterson's amputated arm, about Father Davies choking on a donut, about all the times the rules had saved lives, and all the times they'd cost them. What did he say I should choose? He didn't. He said that's the point of choice. Nobody can make it for you. Jennifer lay down on the bed and closed her eyes. Within minutes, she was asleep. Normal sleep. The kind that comes with dreams instead of visions. Father Castellano and I stood in the corridor outside cell 27. The burn marks on the glass were the only proof that any of it had happened. "What do you think?" he asked. "I think we need to be ready for whatever's coming from Jerusalem. And the girl, she's clear. Whatever happened, it's over." But I was wrong about that. 3 days later, while Jennifer was eating breakfast, she looked up from her cereal and said, "He's awake." Every demon in the facility started screaming at the same time. The sound went through the walls, through the floors, through my bones. 26 cells worth of supernatural rage and terror. It lasted for exactly 1 minute, then stopped. When the screaming ended, Jennifer looked at me through the observation window and mouthed 2 words. "He's coming." That was 6 months ago. Jennifer went home to Portland. We kept monitoring her, but she stayed normal. College student, psychology major. No more ancient voices or Aramaic languages. But every week she sends me a postcard. Never any words, just pictures. The Western Wall in Jerusalem, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, Golgotha, places she's never been. And every week the pictures are a little different. Shadows that shouldn't be there. Shapes in the background that look almost human. Last week's postcard showed the dome of the rock. In the background, barely visible, was a figure walking away from the camera. Tall, thin, wearing what looked like ancient robes. I keep all the postcards in my desk drawer. Evidence of something I can't prove to people who wouldn't believe me anyway. The demons in the cells have been quieter since that day. More watchful, like they're waiting for something. Or someone. And sometimes, late at night, when I'm doing my rounds, I can swear I hear footsteps upstairs. Slow, deliberate footsteps in the papal apartments. But when I check the security monitors, there's never anyone there. Just shadows moving in rooms that should be empty. The rules still apply. Feed them what's on the list. Never look them in the eyes for more than 3 seconds. Never enter a cell alone. Never touch them. And if they escape, run. But I'm starting to think the rules were written for a different war. One where the enemy stayed locked up and played by the same basic principles as us. This feels like something else entirely. This feels like the beginning of the end. The first demon arrived on a Tuesday morning at exactly 9:23 a.m. I know the exact time because I was checking my watch when every alarm in the facility went off at once. Fire alarms, security alarms, containment breach alarms. The whole underground level lit up like Christmas, and the sound was loud enough to wake the dead. Which, given our circumstances, was probably not just a figure of speech. I was in the break room drinking coffee that tasted like motor oil when it happened. The cup fell out of my hand and shattered on the floor. Hot coffee splashed across my boots. For a moment, I just stood there, listening to the alarms and watching steam rise from the puddle. Then the lights went out. Emergency lighting kicked in 3 seconds later, bathing everything in red. Red light makes everything look like a crime scene. Makes normal shadows look like bloodstains. Down in the cells, 26 demons started laughing. Not screaming this time. Laughing. That was worse. I grabbed my radio and headed for the central corridor. "Control, this is Riley. What's the situation?" Static. Nothing but static. "Control, respond." More static. Then a voice I didn't recognize. Old voice. Patient voice. the kind of voice that had been waiting a long time to speak. "Hello, Marcus?" I stopped running. The voice was coming from my radio, but it was also coming from the walls, from the air itself. "Who is this?" "I think you know. The first demon. The one Dismas had warned me about. The one that Jennifer's postcards had been tracking across the Holy Land for 6 months. What do you want?" "To come home." The laughter from the cells was getting louder, hysterical, like children on Christmas morning. I reached the central corridor and saw Father Castellano standing in front of the main elevator. He was holding a shotgun loaded with blessed salt rounds. His hands were shaking. "How many guards are down here?" I asked. "Just us. Night shift went home an hour ago. Day shift isn't due for another 2 hours." "What about the upper levels?" "Sealed off. Automatic lockdown when the alarms triggered." So it was just us. 2 men and 26 demons, and something that had been walking the earth since before the pyramids were built. The elevator dinged. Just a pleasant, normal sound. Like we were in a hotel instead of a supernatural prison. The doors opened. Nothing came out. The elevator was empty. But the air that drifted out was different. Older. It smelled like dust and dried blood, and something else. Something that reminded me of the morgue where I'd identified Sarah's body 3 years ago. "Marcus," the voice again, coming from everywhere at once. "I've been looking forward to meeting you." "Yeah? Well, you're going to be disappointed." Father Castellano looked at me like I was crazy. Maybe I was. But 8 years of dealing with supernatural prisoners teaches you that showing fear is like showing weakness to a schoolyard bully. They can smell it on you. "The church has been keeping my children locked up down here for decades. I've come to collect them." "They're not your children. They're prisoners." "Are they?" "Look around, Marcus. Really look." I looked. At the cells with their reinforced doors and holy water channels. At the monitoring equipment and the blessed salt circles drawn on the floor. At the crosses mounted on every wall. What am I supposed to see? A nursery. A place where my children have been growing stronger. Fed regularly. Protected from exorcisms. Kept safe from the outside world. The first cold finger of realization touched my spine. You wanted them here. Of course. Where else would they be safe? The church takes such good care of demons, Marcus. Much better care than they take of people. I thought about Peterson's amputated arm, about the guards who'd quit or retired, or simply disappeared over the years, about all the rules designed to keep us alive while we fed and maintained and protected the things in the cells. We've been their caretakers. Such good caretakers. Following the rules. Never asking questions. Never wondering why demons captured by the church are never actually exorcised. Father Castellano's shotgun was pointed at the empty elevator, but his hands were shaking worse now. Some of them can't be exorcised, he said. His voice sounded small. All of them can be exorcised, priest. It just requires sacrifice. The church would rather lock them away than pay the price to free their hosts. The demons in the cells had stopped laughing. Now they were chanting. 26 voices speaking in unison, words in a language that made my teeth ache. What are they saying? They're welcoming me home. Something moved in the elevator, not stepping out, just shifting position, like a tall man adjusting his stance. Show yourself, I said. Are you sure? Most people prefer me in a more familiar form. The temperature in the corridor dropped 20 degrees in 5 seconds. My breath came out in white puffs. I've seen demons before. You've seen possessed humans, Marcus, parasites wearing borrowed flesh. I am something else entirely. The thing in the elevator stepped forward, into the light. It looked like a man, tall, thin, wearing a simple black robe, middle-aged face with kind eyes and gray hair. It could have been anyone's father or uncle or favorite teacher. except for the shadow. The shadow was wrong. Instead of copying the thing's human shape, it spread across the floor like spilled ink. Multiple arms, multiple heads, shapes that hurt to look at directly. Better? Not really. I can take other forms. Your ex-wife, perhaps. Sarah was very beautiful. Leave her out of this. She's been asking about you, Marcus. In the place where she waits, she wants to know why you haven't joined her yet. I pulled my service weapon, standard Glock 17, loaded with blessed silver bullets. Probably useless against something this old, but it made me feel better. Here's what's going to happen, I said. You're going to turn around and walk back into that elevator. You're going to go back to wherever you came from, and you're going to leave my demons alone. The thing smiled. Its teeth were perfectly normal, human teeth in a human mouth. Your demons, Marcus? When did they become yours? When I started guarding them, and if I refuse, then we find out if blessed silver works on original sin. Father Castellano looked at me like I'd lost my mind. Maybe I had. You don't threaten cosmic forces with a handgun. But I'd been following rules for 8 years, and the rules had turned me into a janitor for hell. Time to write some new rules. The first demon considered this. Its shadow writhed on the floor like it was alive. You know what I like about you, Marcus? You understand the real choice, which is between duty and righteousness. The church taught you to follow orders. Life taught you to do what's right. They're not always the same thing. It was the same choice Dismas had warned me about, the same choice Jennifer had seen in her visions. The church has been feeding and protecting demons for decades, the thing continued, keeping them healthy, keeping them strong, all in the name of containment, to protect people, to protect the church's monopoly on salvation. Can't have people learning that evil is real if good isn't for sale. I thought about all the rules, all the procedures designed to keep the demons alive and contained, never to destroy them, never to free their hosts, just to maintain them indefinitely. What about the people they possessed? Long dead, Marcus. The hosts died decades ago. What's left are just empty shells animated by my children. The chanting from the cells was getting louder, more urgent. So what are you asking me to do? Your job, your real job, protect people. From what? From this. It gestured to the cells around us. From a system that breeds monsters and calls it holy work. The choice was simple when you stripped away all the theology and bureaucracy. Follow the rules and let 26 demons loose on the world, or break the rules and stop them here. I looked at Father Castellano. He was staring at the demon like a mouse watching a snake. Father, the manual destruct system, where is it? What? This facility has a manual destruct system. Emergency measure in case of total containment failure. Where is it? Marcus, you can't be serious. Where is it? Control room. But it requires 2 keys, mine and Cardinal Toretti's. Where's Toretti's key? He keeps it with him. He's in Florence for the week. The first demon was watching this exchange with what looked like approval. Resourceful, but unnecessary. It walked to the nearest cell, cell 3. The possessed businessman who ate raw liver twice a day. The cell door was steel reinforced with blessed silver, locked with 3 separate mechanisms, warded with protective symbols that had been used for 1,000 years. The demon touched the door gently, just one finger against the metal. The door crumbled to dust. The thing that had been a businessman stepped out. It nodded to the first demon like they were old friends meeting for lunch. Hello, Father. Hello, my child. Are you ready to go home? Yes. The businessman walked to the elevator and stepped inside. No fanfare, no dramatic exit, just a businessman going up to his office. 1 down, 25 to go. I started running toward the control room. The manual destruct system might not work, but it was the only option I had left. Behind me, I could hear more doors crumbling. More greetings between parent and children. The control room was 50 yards down the corridor, 50 yards through red emergency lighting and the sound of 25 demons saying goodbye to their cells. I made it 30 yards before the lights went out completely. Emergency lighting failed. Backup power failed. Even the luminous paint on the exit signs went dark. I was moving through absolute darkness, guided only by memory and the knowledge that every second counted. Behind me, Father Castellano screamed. I didn't stop, couldn't stop. If I stopped, everyone upstairs died. Everyone in Rome died. Maybe everyone everywhere. The control room door was locked. Electronic lock that required a keycard and a pin. But the electronics were dead. I put 3 blessed silver bullets into the lock mechanism and kicked the door open. Inside, emergency battery lighting gave me enough illumination to see the manual destruct panel. Big red button under a protective cover. Simple and obvious. But it required 2 keys turned simultaneously. I had 1 key. Father Castellano had been carrying the other. Father Castellano was probably dead. I tried turning my key alone. Nothing. The system was designed to prevent accidents, to prevent single individuals from making unilateral decisions about mass destruction. Good planning, bad timing. I could hear footsteps in the corridor, multiple sets of footsteps. The demons were coming up from the cells. Soon they'd reach the surface. Soon they'd be loose in Vatican City. Then I remembered Peterson's cattle prod, the one we used to break contact between prisoners and guards. 50,000 volts of blessed electricity. I found it mounted on the wall next to the emergency medical kit, grabbed it and jammed the electrodes into Father Castellano's keyhole. 50,000 volts hit the locking mechanism. Sparks flew. The smell of burning electronics filled the air. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the second lock clicked open. I turned both keys simultaneously. Red lights flashed. Klaxons sounded. A computerized voice announced that manual destruct would commence in 60 seconds. 60 seconds to get out, 60 seconds to reach minimum safe distance, 60 seconds to hope that whoever designed this system knew what they were doing. I ran for the emergency stairs, not the elevator. If the first demon was still playing with elevators, I wasn't getting trapped in a metal box with it. The stairwell was dark, but I had a flashlight. Standard equipment for all guards. I took the steps 3 at a time, counting off seconds in my head. 45 seconds. 40. 35. I reached ground level, burst through the emergency exit into the Vatican gardens. Dawn was breaking over Rome. Normal sunrise on a normal Tuesday morning. Tourists would start arriving in a few hours. Pilgrims and sightseers who had no idea what was happening 3 floors beneath their feet. 20 seconds. 15. I ran for the nearest cover. Stone wall around the papal apartments. Got behind it and pressed myself against the ground. 10 seconds. 5. The explosion came from below. Not up through the earth, but down into it. Like the building was falling in reverse. The sound was enormous and quiet at the same time, like thunder heard from underwater. The ground shook for 30 seconds. Windows rattled in buildings a mile away. Car alarms went off all over Rome. Then silence. I waited 5 minutes before going back to check. The entrance to the underground facility was gone. Just a depression in the earth filled with rubble and dust. No stairs, no elevator, no cells, no demons. In the distance, I could hear sirens, fire trucks, ambulances, police. Someone had called in a gas explosion. Ruptured pipes in the basement levels. Tragic accident. No casualties, thankfully. The area would be cordoned off for weeks while they investigated. The official report would blame faulty infrastructure. Old pipes in an older building. These things happen in Rome. Too much history for the foundations to support. I walked home through the empty streets. My apartment felt different. Smaller. Like a place where someone else had been living. I made coffee and sat at my kitchen table, turned on the TV. The news was full of other stories. Political scandals, economic reports, a traffic accident on the A1. Nothing about Vatican City, nothing about explosions or demons or choices between duty and righteousness. My phone rang at noon. Father Castellano. Marcus? Thank God. Are you all right? I thought you were dead. I got out through the service tunnel, barely made it before the explosion. What happened down there? I told him. All of it. The first demon, the choice, the manual destruct. Everything except the part about breaking the rules. The facility is gone, he said. All of it. We'll have to start over. No. What? We're not starting over. We're finishing. I don't understand. The church has been in the demon business for too long, Father. Time to get out. I hung up and walked to my bedroom, opened the closet and pulled out my suitcase. I owned 3 pairs of pants, 6 shirts, some underwear, and socks. Everything fit in one bag. I left the Vatican uniforms in the closet. My savings account had enough money for a plane ticket and a few months' rent somewhere quiet. Maybe Key West. Peterson said it was nice there. Warm weather, cold beer, fish that didn't know about good and evil. The apartment felt lighter as I packed, like I was leaving more than just furniture behind. I thought about calling Jennifer in Portland, telling her what had happened, that Dismas had been right about the choice, that I'd chosen to break the rules instead of following them, but she probably already knew. Some knowledge travels faster than phone calls. I thought about the first demon, whether it had died in the explosion or just moved on to other business, whether destroying the facility had solved anything or just postponed it. Maybe evil is like energy, can't be created or destroyed, just changed from one form to another. Maybe all I'd done was scatter 26 small problems into one big problem. Or maybe some choices are worth making, even when you don't know the outcome. The taxi arrived at 2 p.m. Driver didn't ask questions about where I was going. Just loaded my suitcase and headed for the airport. As we drove through Rome, I saw tourists taking pictures of fountains and churches. Normal people living normal lives. They didn't know how close they'd come to something extraordinary. How thin the line was between their normal world and the other place where demons guard children and priests feed monsters. Maybe that was better. Maybe some knowledge is too heavy for people to carry. At the airport, I bought a ticket to Miami. From there, I'd figure out the rest. Maybe Key West. Maybe somewhere else entirely. Somewhere without rules or cells or choices between duty and righteousness. The plane took off at sunset. Rome fell away below me, getting smaller until it was just lights in the darkness. From 30,000 feet, you can't see the difference between holy ground and everywhere else. It all looks the same from that distance. I'm writing this from a beach in the Florida Keys. It's been 6 months since the explosion. The Vatican rebuilt the underground facility. Bigger, better, more secure. They hired new guards with better training and stricter protocols. They sent me recruitment letters for a while. Generous offers, signing bonuses, full benefits packages. I threw them away unopened. Sometimes I get postcards from Jennifer in Portland. Not pictures of Jerusalem anymore. Pictures of normal places, coffee shops, bookstores, her college campus. Just normal postcards from a normal girl living a normal life. I run a charter fishing boat now. Take tourists out to catch marlin and tarpon. The work is simple. No rules except the ones physics and weather impose. No demons except the ones people bring with them. And everyone brings some. But these are small demons. Human-sized demons. The kind that respond to fresh air and honest work and the knowledge that tomorrow will probably be better than today. Some nights, when the moon is dark and the water is still, I think I can hear footsteps on the deck. Slow, patient footsteps. The sound of something that's been walking for a very long time. But when I turn on the lights, there's never anyone there. Just the ocean and the stars and the knowledge that some choices echo longer than others. I sleep better now. Dream less. The rules are simpler out here. Keep the boat maintained. Treat the fish with respect. Bring everyone home safe. Follow those rules, and usually everything works out fine. usually is good enough for me.